We are so excited to be here. I always say, even if it's for 20 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, if it's 15 minutes, and it's here to come and kind of have a conversation and talk. And so today I'm super excited because I have two wonderful people who are joining me, folks who know them. One of the people you already know them or know her already, but in a different capacity. And then I have a new person that I just want to introduce to all our My Goal family. So the first thing I want to say is that I love each one of you and I appreciate the God in you and how awesome you are. You are beautiful just the way you are. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Of course, I just come into my spirit to say that because sometimes, we're so hard on ourselves and we fail to appreciate how good we are. A friend of mine, Kendra, once said to me, she said, one of the best things you can ever do to yourself is go to the mirror and talk to that person looking back at you and point to that person and say, you are good enough the way you are. If you're not getting anybody to tell you that, look in the mirror and talk to that person that's talking back at you. And then, but the best part is make some funny faces while you're doing it too. And just say, you are good enough just the way you are. So that's one of the words I want to just share out to you. And then I want to give a shout out right now. We have a new program coordinator with My Goal. Her name is Andrea. Andrea, welcome, welcome, welcome to the family. Why don't you tell everybody about you a little bit?
Yeah, it's really nice to be here with everyone. Dr. Genevieve has been so good to me. I'm learning so much. It's been so great. What made me want to be a part of My Goal is I've worked a lot with children and families, and I think families are just so beautiful. I think they're so caring. I love to see different family dynamics, and that changes based on who's in the family. And, I'm really looking forward to working with families of children with autism and other intellectual disabilities. I am also a grad student at Rutgers School of Social Work. My specialization is mental health. I'm starting in the fall and I'm really excited about that. And yeah, I'm just happy to be program coordinator and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so I just think that part of the assignment that God has given me for My Goal is to cultivate and develop relationship with people along the journey. And since we started in 2008, I have been incredibly blessed to have so many people who have worked with us. And they come in us, and Trey, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, I've always said the autism journey is like going on a bus to an unknown destination. And along the journey, we have people who God brings alongside of us who cheers us on, who empowers us, who, remind us of how hard the journey is, but they're here as a support. And along the journey, God has brought me some incredibly smart people. And Andrea is just one of them who comes in with her skill set and is able to say, let me help to support this families that God has entrusted to come together. And so, Jenny, who's our former program coordinator. She's still with My Goal. She serves on our grant committee. Had a great opportunity to go work in the school district in her town. She's super excited about being a third grade teacher. So of course we couldn't pull her away from the fact that God is expanding her territories and allowing her to go do something greater. So of course, once she left on to do that and still wants to volunteer and still work with My Goal, God brought us Andrea. And so you're going to see her face around. She's going to be doing some programming with us. And we're super excited that she's with us. But today I have a word for us. And before I get into the word, I just wanted to introduce a dear friend, Trey. So we're going to highlight Trey for a minute. Welcome, 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 Trey. Trey, I want her to introduce herself because I don't think I could do justice to Trey, and I just called her on the spot of the moment. So if you see her in the car, that's because she's trying to be good about saying, keeping it real with me and just keeping it going. So Trey, tell us, welcome and talk about what you're up to these days.
Hi, everybody. My name is Trey Kearney. First, I am here because I am an autism mommy of a 12-year-old son, Jermaine, who is nonverbal on the spectrum and who is just making leaps and bounds right now. And I'm just so excited to be a part of the My Goal family. We've been in the My Goal family for a very long time, and they were the first people Genevieve is one of the first people who actually gave me guidance in what autism actually was, and to just not panic. I am a certified life coach, certified relationship coach, author, speaker, healing agent. I help men and women heal through the devastation of infidelity. I help them to restore hope in their marriages, restore hope in relationships, and just to restore hope in love.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a mouthful. That is quite a bit. Well, I'm glad you're here with us to kind of share a little bit of the conversation we're going to have. So, like Trey said, it's more than just the fact that she is what she calls an autism mom. And so, tell me a little bit about how that title came about. When did you start using that, and what's that purpose of doing that?
Awesome autism mom.
Yeah.
Along the journey, you learn that you have so much more power in you than you thought you did. Right. Because when we get that diagnosis, we actually feel weak, lost, sometimes depressed, anxious. And as you go along the journey, like Genevieve said, and you get on that bus, you start to develop your superpowers, or you start to tap into your superpowers that God gave you, because He would never give us more than we could ever handle. And we learn along this journey that we are awesome autism super moms, because God chose us. This is not for the faint at heart. Trust me. This is not for the weak. This is not for the complainers. This is where you find God's grace, right? And this is where you find God's strength. And this is where you start to begin to tap into the good things, and you start to focus on the strengths of your child rather than the weakness, which is a superpower all in itself. Because we could complain all day, or we could pick on the things that our children don't do. But more than anything, we've learned to highlight what the things that our children can do, which keeps us going on this autism journey.
Yeah. So tell me, how did you get to this place of being able to transition to this mindset that it's a journey? Talk to us a little bit about your journey up to this point with Jermaine, and how you got to this spot.
Well, getting here exactly was just a journey of understanding that this is a learning process for me. One, it's not my journey. One, I am on a bus with Jermaine, and this is his journey. This is part of his testimony. I have my own testimony and my own story as far as what I do as a life coach and all those different things. This is Jermaine's journey. This is his path. God just sent me here to assist him. So what better way to assist him than to support him rather than to stress him out? And it takes time for the new autism mommies. This just didn't just happen for me today. This has been a process of learning that just because my son doesn't talk doesn't mean that he doesn't understand. For a long time, I babied him because I thought that because he didn't talk, because we equate talking to our children getting older and getting more mature. I babied him. I would carry him. And a friend of mine was like, why are you carrying him? Like, he knows how to walk up and down the stairs. And I was like, no, he might fall. And then he's like, no, when you're not here, he walks up and down the stairs. So I had to detach him being nonverbal to him not understanding. And I want people to understand that too. Just because a child on the spectrum doesn't talk doesn't mean that they don't understand. Just because a child on the spectrum doesn't know one thing doesn't mean they're not going to excel in something else. And that's how I'm beginning to transition to understand that this is Jermaine's journey and it's his pace. And as he makes his milestones, it's just not the same time that other children make milestones. Like they said, he probably wouldn't feed himself. He started feeding himself at 4. He got fully potty trained at 9. But that was the time for him to make the milestone. And I have accepted that this is his journey and it's in his timing, and that's okay with me.
So I'm so glad you said that it is his journey. That really struck a chord, because many a times we make it about us as the parents, yes, how I'm feeling, how I am doing. And at the end of the day, he's the person that's going through this whole thing.
Yes. Can I tell a little story, Jenny? Yes. Something that you taught me. Remember, Jermaine didn't want to sit on Santa Claus's lap, and I came and told you, he don't want to sit on Santa Claus's lap. He said, and you told me, he doesn't have to sit on Santa Claus's lap. That's about you. That's not about him. Right. You want the picture on Santa Claus's lap. If he doesn't enjoy sitting on Santa Claus's lap, if he doesn't enjoy sitting on the Easter Bunny's lap, why are you doing that? And it gave me a new perspective of it's not about me, it's about Jermaine. Why am I stressing my child out on the spectrum because I want a picture with Santa Claus? So you really brought me back into, Trey, this is not about you. This is about Jermaine. He doesn't like to sit on Santa Claus' lap. If he doesn't like to do it, and it's not a necessity. It's not a necessity. Him going to the dentist is a necessity, right? Him going to the doctor is a necessity. Him getting his eyes checked is a necessity. We got to fight for that. But him sitting on the Easter Bunny's lap, boo, that's all about you. Like, he don't need to do that. And you brought me back in, and I stopped making him do it. I simply was like, okay, he doesn't want to put on a Halloween costume, or he doesn't want to do these things, or he doesn't want to go and participate in a birthday party. Why am I stressing not only him out, but myself over something that he simply does not want to do? Because it's his journey.
No, that's a good one, because, and it's, as you've been telling the story, I had forgotten I told you that. And I'm sitting here like, okay, that's note to self, because, you know, Nicholas is 20 now, and we're in that place of transition. And every time I'm about to do something, I start feeling like, oh, wow, how am I going to get this thing done? And what you just said just struck a chord that, you know what, it is his journey. And it's about his comfort, not about my discomfort, right? Because it's not about my discomfort. It's about how he needs to be comfortable to be able to do what God has called him to be. So tell me, you know, I have this acronym that I use all the time, HOPE, holding on to possibilities every day.
Yes.
What would you say is your hope in the season? What do you use, or how do you continue to have hope even in this journey that you have with Jermaine?
So anchored in God. Like, I'm so anchored. Like, it's about my hope is my trust in God, right? I trust his process. And Jermaine, I have stopped. Society makes us compare, right? And we compare our children to everybody. This child is doing this, child is doing that. I hope for the best for Jermaine, right? I hope for what's best for him, not for what I want for him, not for what society says a child his age is supposed to be doing. So I'm hopeful, and a lot of other parents give me hope along this journey. And I want other parents to share their stories. I want them to share their autism mommy moments. I want them to share when their child excels in something, because we are the hope for another parent, Genevieve. You are the hope for me. Nadine is the hope for me. Nicholas is the hope for me, right? Because I've watched Nicholas' journey. I've watched him grow. I've watched him excel. Maybe not in areas where other people think he should have. I've watched Nason grow. You guys are my hope. When another parent comes and said, my child said mama, right? Or my child waved his hand, or my child refused to eat something because he just simply didn't like it. Those are the moments that give me hope. Those are the hope float moments for me. When I see your child doing it, when you tell me something that it's just not necessary, I'm hopeful, and I know that God has a plan for me. God has a plan for Jermaine. And not only does he have a plan, he has a good and perfect plan for my life. He came that we would have life and life to the full. He came that we would have an abundant life, right? He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. We are healed by his stripes, right? So I'm hopeful because my baby is who he is supposed to be. And I look at him that way. And you know, sometimes I have to say normal kids. Jermaine is a normal kid, but when I'm explaining things to people, sometimes we're atypical normal. Jermaine is a normal child. I'm looking at him and I'm like, he does the same things to work my nerves that my other two boys did, right? He does the same things. So really, the one thing that I just hope for is that Jermaine will get everything out of life that is meant for him, right? And my hope comes from seeing other children excel, and not just children on a spectrum. Every child has a gift. Every child has a purpose, and that's where my hope lies.
Wow. Thank you for saying that, because just before we started streaming live to everybody, I was saying how I sometimes have this imposter syndrome of not wanting to put my story out there or not wanting to share, you know. So even anytime I'm getting ready to do this empowerment moment, I literally have to be like, oh God, give me strength, give me the word, tell me what to say. Of course, when I get on here, I start talking as if like it's coming natural and people think it's so easy, but it's not. But it is in these times that you know that sharing our stories is also inspiring somebody else who is facing a challenge. They may have had a bad day, they log on, and here it is, we're talking about it, and that lifts them up. And,
Yes.
and so knowing that Nicholas's journey is an inspiration to somebody else, now it's an affirmation that, okay, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Yep.
This is why I got to get on social media. This is why I'm like, can I just put the covers over my head and stay there? No, God can't do it. I'm inspired by seeing the smiley faces that are on here. And so, I was telling everybody, I was like, I'm sure Trey doesn't have this kind of feeling of trying to go on social media. She's natural. She just gets in there and gets on there. She's like, oh no, that's not what happens. Tell me what is the inspiration for doing what you do? I know you just talked about your faith in the Lord, but what else also gives you that motivation to get out there and share?
Just knowing that I was in a space at one point where I needed inspiration, where I needed motivation, where I needed somebody to share their story, right? Mm-hmm. Where I needed to know that I wasn't the only one. Like, you're not the only one. So I like to share, and I'm inspired to inspire someone else to know that you are not alone. You're okay. It's going to be okay. You're okay, right? Because yesterday, Jermaine, we had to cut Jermaine's hair. His father comes to the house to help me cut his hair. I go to his house because it's such a task. When I tell you, we bought these Velcro straps to strap him to the chair. Oh, it's a fight. I mean, we're sweating, but it's part of the journey, and we have to do it because a haircut for him is a necessity because his scalp gets bad and all this other stuff. But I know that for me to videotape, I videotaped it. And to share it with another parent to say, your child is not the only child that acts out when it's time to get a haircut. Because I'm like, I can't be the only one going through this. And then I talk to other parents, and when I share the experience with them, they're like, I thought it was only me. So I'm inspired to share my story, to let another mother, to let another father, to let another family know that you are not alone. We are on this journey together. Even if you don't know my name, if you don't know my face, I understand. I get it. So just understand that there are a community of people out here who understand what you're going through. We get it. And when you have an opportunity to share with another parent, if I inspire you, please share with somebody else and inspire them. Because we have to do this for each other. Because if a person doesn't have a child on the spectrum, Genevieve, they really just don't know. But to be in the presence of another parent who has experienced autism, whether it be on the low end of the spectrum or the high end of the spectrum, you understand the struggle, and we need each other. So we have to be out here inspiring, motivating, speaking, and sharing these moments.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you for saying that, because it is, due to your point, that something simple as a haircut requires planning, requires thinking about what we're about to do to this person who's saying this buzz. My husband has had to buy so many different type of, clippers and all kind of stuff. And it was just a journey to get there. And, these are little small things to the average person. Oh, why can't you just go to the barber shop and get a haircut?
Wish. Don't we wish?
Yeah. And it's even for many of the kids, eventually they might get there, but for a lot of them, you end up having to be the barbershop in your home. And I used to say that, and I know it's not the great thing to say, but I felt like COVID helped a lot of people begin to get a clue about what most of us go through. Because what happened with COVID? Folks had to learn how to cut their own hair.
Yes.
Right?
I love it. I love it.
Right? Because all of a sudden, that whole feeling of isolation, I can't go out. I had to say to people, okay, this is how most of us have been feeling for a while now.
Yes.
It's the whole process of you're going out, you got to remember to bring the mask. You got to remember how to, COVID in a way, it made some of us adjusted a little easier to it, because you're like, my brain is programmed to always have to plan how many times, how I'm gonna wash up my hands, what am I gonna do? Like you're always in this constant state of how to
Yes.
plan,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, how did you adjust to COVID? Let's turn in that conversation and then using that as an example of that.
Well, Jermaine kind of sort of transitioned in COVID well. I mean, he was a little confused, and the whole homeschooling, people just don't understand that to get your child to sit in front of a computer, your atypical, regular, normal child, whatever you want to call it, you just don't know how blessed you are. For me to hear people who had children who were not on the spectrum complaining about having their child sit in front of a computer to learn, when I had a child who didn't understand the concept, right? First, you want him to sit in front of a computer, right? One, you want me to get him to sit in front of a computer. Two, you want me to teach him how to put coins inside. So I'm teaching him, sit in front of the computer, put a coin in a cup. He doesn't know what it is. First of all, I'm trying to get him to sit in front of the computer. Now you want me, I'm teaching him in a cup, on a coin, sit in front of the computer. So I'm teaching him 3 or 4 commands when I'm trying to teach him in or out or push without being physically in the presence of a teacher, of a special needs teacher. Then we have physical therapy. You want me to get a ball, the physical therapy ball, to sit him on a ball to make him do physical therapy on a screen and watch you. Right? You can't even get him to do physical therapy in school. But you want me to get him to come in front of the computer and point at the color red. So it was stressful, but it did teach him a little more discipline. After a while, he did learn. So it was good. And another thing about that too, Genevieve, too, and I'm gonna call the parents out on this, and I'm gonna call myself out on this. A lot of stuff I didn't know about Jermaine because I haven't been spending ample amount of time with him because he's always in school. So when I saw him have meltdowns that he doesn't normally have at home because I'm not putting certain demands on him, I'm just looking at him like, what do you think you're doing? And I was like, oh, now I know what your teacher is talking about. Because at home, I try to let him be free at home because he's so structured in school. But it taught me that you can't let him be free at home and expect him to be structured in school. So I had to change some things because there were things that I did not even know about Jermaine because he spent so much time with the teachers. So I'm like, okay, look at you. Take a look at yourself in the mirror. You need to adjust some things at home. You need to spend more time. You need to adjust your work schedule at night when he comes home, or in the evening when he's home. So it was a whole new perspective of being, in a house, contained in a house with Jermaine, trying to explain to him why he can't go outside. He's nonverbal. So I don't know how much he's taking in, how much he understands, what he's comprehending. It wasn't a bad transition for me. It was a learning experience for me because I have to always be present in my son's life. I am his greatest advocate. I am his best teacher. So I had to be like, okay, you needed to learn how to sit him in front of the computer. You needed to learn how to use his talker. You needed to see what they do in physical therapy. You needed to see what they do in speech therapy because I had no idea.
Wow. I'm listening to you talking. I'm like, this is a Trey that I met 9 years ago, just got the diagnosis, ready to have a meltdown. And here it is, like talking about, and I'm just so proud of how far you've come in terms of just being such a huge advocate for your son and the blessing that you are to so many lives, because we're taking it day by day, and you talk about it, and you're so transparent in sharing the challenges and the hurts and the disappointment, and the fears, and knowing that God is also sustaining you. I'm just tip my hat out to you. And, of course, you talked about friend Nadine, same thing. I mean, that's another powerhouse right there.
Yes.
Going through the journey. And I just keep saying to God, okay, I'm like, Lord, is there a reason why you are allowing me to go through every stage of these individuals, their challenges? I'm saying again, assuming it is me, but just making the point that we're doing so much out there for others, and you're seeing sometimes the progress. Sometimes it could be a little overwhelming to say, well, I want to see that rate of progress also. But one thing that I've come to appreciate is that with each challenge, I learned something great about the process.
Yes.
Which is to appreciate the little small things.
Yes.
So tell, can you just give advice to the parents or those who are listening who may be feeling like, wow, how come I can't catch a break? What can you give? What word of encouragement can you give them? A word to empower them to just keep going.
Be encouraged, one. And number two, remember yourself. Remember, before you were an autism mom or dad, you are a person. You deserve care. You deserve help. You deserve to be kind to yourself. This is something that we did not ask for. Look at it as we were gifted with it, right? Don't look at it as a negative. And please don't listen to what everybody says. Please don't listen. I mean, when your doctor tells you to do things, but when somebody tells you your child is never going to speak or your child is never going to do this, don't believe that. The work that you put in, you will see it in your child. The work the belief that you have, whatever you believe is going to, but you really have to believe, and you have to be okay with your child progressing at their own rate. There's no race. And society has made us all our lives, even with our atypical children, it was always a competition. Oh, my child knows that whole alphabet at 2, or my child is reading a newspaper at 5, or my child knows how to do science experiments. Okay, this is not a competition. This is a collaboration. All of our children are great. Each and every one of our children, atypical, normal, autistic, whatever mental illness a child may have or a struggle they may have, each one of our kids is gifted and talented in their own space. And you just have to focus in and hone on those things that you see your child excelling at and support them on that. Your architect, right? Flipping on their head. Yeah, you're going to be a gymnast. If they're in the kitchen and they're stirring the soup, yeah, you're going to be a cook. Focus in, hone in, and focusing on the good things that your child is doing. And when those times come, those rough patches, believe it's only a moment. It's going to get better. And always, always, always to every parent out there, please ask for help. Find a support group. Just find a support group. All you have to do is really go online and Google support groups in your area. The best thing I ever did was find my goal. That was the best thing in my whole entire life that I ever did for my son, was to just find support, to sit in a support group once a month and be able to talk to other parents who are going through this. It saved my soul. It saved me from myself. It saved me from the anxiety. It saved me from thinking too far ahead. Another thing, anxiety comes from thinking too far in the past and worrying too much about the future. So you have to stay in a moment with your children, or you'll stress yourself out and you'll stress them out. And neither one of us deserve it, because we're on a beautiful journey together. And when your child does not want to do something and they're experiencing high stress, fall back. I just fall back with Jermaine sometimes. Like when we were cutting his hair yesterday, we just had to give him several breaks. I was like, okay, that's enough. Let's just stop and revisit this in 15 minutes. Wow. Right? It was patches all over his head. I was like, we just got to stop and revisit this in 15 minutes. And then we got to it and we got through it. And so will you. Just believe that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Wow. And you will go through it, but you will get through it and you will grow through it and you'll be able to teach somebody else.
Wow. These are like pearls of wisdom you just dropped like out of your mouth. These questions were not prepared. This was just a conversation that we were having. And I just, just the spirit in which you're just speaking, I just want to say thank you so much. I want to thank all of you guys who have logged on. Patricia and Ramke, thank you for logging in tonight. For those of you who are watching us on Facebook, who will watch us on replay later, thank you. I just want to just give you a word of encouragement. She said a lot of great stuff and reminded us that our foundation and our faith and what we're anchored to is one key thing that will allow us to keep going. And my faith is in Christ. And so therefore, anytime I come about and I'm sharing, I'm like, the reason why I can do all the things that I'm doing is it is through Christ who gives me strength. Without that, I would be falling apart. Trey will be falling apart. A number of us will be falling apart. And so we always have to go back to what's the source that will keep you going. You got to have something to place your faith in that doesn't move, that doesn't shake, that doesn't shift. It is consistent. And so I
Yes.
always like to leave a word for us with that. And this morning I was thinking about the book of Psalms, Psalm chapter 23. And it's a common Psalms that many of us know. And it just simply says, the Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. He lets me rest in green meadows and he leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength and he guides me along the right paths, bringing honor to his name. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. You prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies. And you honor me by anointing my head with oil. My cup overflows with blessings. Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever. So remember, God is your shepherd, God is your protector, God is your strength, God is your encourager. He will lead you beside streams of peaceful waters. You are not going to succumb to the struggles and the challenges because you have an anchor. And he is there for you. And she also talked about the importance of being connected to a community. Community means that joining people like my goal, like Nissan's place, where people who care and genuinely love you will inspire you and will remind you that you're not alone. So if you're hearing me tonight, Trey and I came on here tonight. Ron Care is on here tonight. Pat is on here tonight. Andres on here tonight to say we love you. We care about you. Reach out to us. Don't suffer in silence. If you're struggling, please, please, please reach out to us. We're here for you. You can email us info@mygoalinc.org, info@mygoalinc.org, and we'll be able to reach out to you and support you so you're not alone. I want to thank you, Trey, for such a blessing that you are. We're going to do this again soon. I'll try to bring a panel together so we can just talk about hard stuff, because one of the things I wanted us to talk about, but time went fast, is talk about the transition, that hard spot. So we're going to do that again, because I have some ideas and some thoughts that we can share with all of us. So if you have a child that is transitioning to 5th grade, for example, from elementary school to middle school, from middle school to high school, from high school to post-grad, we want to have a conversation about what are the transitional points and how do we make it through. And I know that there's some warrior parents out there who want to join us in that conversation. So join us next month for Empowerment Moment, and we'll bring you a word to encourage you for the season. So I just want to thank all of you for joining us, and thank you, Trey. I love you. My love to you for joining us tonight. You're a blessing. Have a good night, everyone. Bye now.
Good night.
Bye.